Ladies and gentlemen, how are you doing on this lovely Thursday afternoon? It is October 17th. We're entering the, botched the opening there. We are entering the chilly season. I had to pull sweatpants out of the drawer last night. Don't love that, but I love everything that October entails besides the impending doom of winter. It's crisp, it's cool, there's beautiful light at this time of the day. And most importantly, I get to spend my evenings talking to the likes of Gage Ryan Video on Tuesdays, and on Thursdays I get to talk to Mr. Steel Flyers. How you doing, bud?
I am doing the victory dance of victory. How's that? I'm doing great, man. I have to tell you, it's been a while since we've had our therapy session.
Yeah, yeah.
By the way, great show you and Gage did on Tuesday. Awesome stuff.
Thank you.
Big props to Gage and Frayne for holding down the fort while you were off getting mattied.
I just, it's really gratifying when you invest in people that want to be invested in, and it pays off. And we've reached the point now where I can say, hey, I'm gonna, bounce for 2 weeks. You guys handle it, and man, they did everything. I'm so proud of them and so thankful for their help. So, yeah, as always, love the team here at 5-Star Matchup. Join the Patreon so I can pay them more. Patreon.com/5SMU. That's what it's there for. Pretty much all goes to them. So join up and help me give them better salaries. But it's exciting to be back talking with you, man. I see Jaden's out there. He's at work as a forklift driver, and he's trying to figure out how to watch this stream with 13% of his battery left. Love the dedication, my brother. Put it on energy saver mode, and
there you go. Watch it till you can't.
Yeah, exactly. We love it.
You can catch it later because it'll be up there, so you can catch it later. But
that's true. That's true.
Yeah,
that's true. But yeah, I'm here. I got a fresh cup of coffee. Some might notice the Mr. Met fitted I got. I know that's, maybe Pirates fans in the audience not so in love with that. But listen, I got the Mets going in Game 4 of the NLCS tonight. Listen, folks, I'm sorry, but my Pittsburgh teams have not been getting as far as my New York teams lately. The Knicks and the Mets. I never thought I would have said this 10 years ago. But the Knicks and the Mets are both infinitely closer winning championships than the Steelers and the Penguins, and that's really not something I would have ever expected to say 10 years ago. But hey, listen, glad to be back, glad to be talking Steelers football. Yeah, what's going on, man? I don't know. What do you got on the top of your dome right now?
Here we go. Here we go. Look, we're gonna ride the hot hand until it ain't hot no more. And if Tomlin wants to play the quarterback game in the press and then let him play it on the field, I think we're gonna see Russell Wilson sooner rather than later, and
Yeah, I think.
not necessarily because Justin's playing so horrible. Okay, it's just that it's almost like, okay, well, we see what we get in Justin Fields. I guess we need to give Russell Wilson 6 games or 7 games, or see what we got in him. And then that's going to decide who it's going to be. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I think when I was on the air the other day with Gage, I was saying that I thought that Tomlin was playing the game a little bit and being purposefully not precise. But after seeing Justin Fields's locker room comments yesterday, which by the way exhibited great leadership, and the kid just, I mean, I love him. I love that he just, I love that he is the type of person he is, and clearly he's taking everything in stride. But I do think listening to his comments, it sounds to me abundantly clear that Russell is going to start this week and take over the job. And I'm not sure how I feel about that, honestly. As everybody knows, I've been firmly in the Justin Fields camp. Um, but I have always been somebody who says I got to leave it to the coaches, and say that if they really think that Wilson presents that much better of an opportunity this year to get to the playoffs and win, and maybe even get to a Super Bowl, then I got to leave it to him to make this decision. It's a tricky spot, man, because if they come out and they lay an egg after they were kind of rolling, um, gonna be an interesting look, is all.
I can't even remotely disagree with you, but here's the thing: you don't necessarily make somebody a captain and then never play him.
Yeah.
Or am I just grasping at straws on that one? You know what I'm saying? It just kind of seemed like it was a foregone conclusion that when Russell Wilson was healthy, he was going to be playing.
Yeah, I guess.
I mean,
Um, yeah.
that to me was the writing on the wall all day long.
Although
And
Kenny Pickett was a captain last year and he lost his job to Mason Rudolph, so.
okay, but losing your job because you stink is different than losing your job because you're hurt, right?
Right.
Okay, so if you're going to give everybody a fair shot, well, let's give them a fair shot, see what we got. At this point, we really don't have anything to lose and everything to gain. Because if Russell Wilson comes out and balls out, hey, look,
Yeah.
I get it. He's 30 plus, and I understand. And there's going to be some rust and the whole 9 yards, and I get it. But if he comes and balls out, then isn't that the same as what you did at the very beginning of the season when you jumped on the strawberry field and
Yeah,
said,
yeah.
"Hey, man, we're winning, so who really
Right,
cares?"
right. No, so that's the thing as being a fan, right? Is like everybody always, like, I've learned this now after doing this show for 5 or 6 years, where it's like, everybody paints you as like, oh, you were on this team, you were on this
Yeah,
side of
yeah.
this argument, and like you felt it, and it's like at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. As I always preach, like literally whatever you or I or Gage or anybody says, Steelers Depot and this and that, whoever, anybody, anything any of us in the media say, it literally doesn't matter. We're just expressing opinions. So like, yes, if I'm gonna sit here and say I don't want Wilson to play, but then he comes out and he throws for 350 yards and 4 touchdowns, and we beat the Jets by 20 points. Like, yeah, I'm gonna say, okay, yeah, that was the right move. Like, I just can't help but look at the recent history with Wilson and say that, you know, his last 3 situationships have ended poorly. That's all. I mean, Seattle moved on from him, in favor of Geno Smith. Denver, fired a coach
I,
his first
I
year, and then
yeah,
moved him the second year, ate a bunch of dead cap to do
yeah,
that. I'm
39
just
million
saying,
dollars.
I don't know. I feel like I see more scenarios where this ends poorly than scenarios where it ends well, but that doesn't mean there aren't scenarios where it ends well.
Well, it's like you said at the very beginning of the season. We're not financially or in any kind of time investments in these two guys, Justin Fields and or Russell Wilson. They're both on 1 year deals, right?
Right.
So who knows? Next year the quarterback room could be completely different again.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that is a very real possibility
Oh,
that
it
that's
will. Yeah.
the
I
case.
mean, at least one or two of those spots will be different people next year. Yeah.
Okay, so wouldn't it kind of give you let's put Russell Wilson in. He's healthy. Let's see what we got. Okay, we like everybody's been saying. All the talking heads have all been saying we already know and see what we got in Justin Fields, and as you have pointed out since the very beginning, it's not like the guy's been playing horrible. Okay, he only has what 2 or 3 interceptions on the year. Okay, okay, one
One and
and
one fumble lost.
one fumble loss and what 5 touchdowns throwing
10 total.
in total. Okay, so I
Five
mean,
each, five rushing, five passing. I
okay,
mean, that's the thing though. That's like, you hypothetically you're making the trade to unlock more of the passing offense, right? That's the theory here. You're saying that Wilson is a more advanced pocket passer who can get through progressions, et cetera, right? Which I can see, but here's the thing: is I look at an offensive line now that 7 weeks into the season is going to be starting its ninth different player, and I look at some of the plays in the last couple weeks that Justin Fields made with his mobility. And Russell Wilson's not doing that at 35, 36 years old. He's just not. And
I'm
he's not tucking it and running for 15 yards. And
I'm with you.
those are the hidden plays in Justin Fields' game that I think have really helped this team and helped to unlock it and unstick the gears a little bit, especially inside the 10. I mean, the 5 rushing touchdowns from that quarterback position 6 games through the season, like, to me is I mean, it's been the most exciting thing. I've had, it feels so unstuck compared to where we were the last 2 years with the Pickett and Trubisky situation. So I don't know.
I
I just
understand.
worry about that line, and I worry about protection.
I understand, and it it's a it's a double-edged sword because
Hmm.
there's no wrong answer and there's no right answer. Do you know
Exactly.
what I mean?
Exactly.
The front office put Pittsburgh in this situation when they got these two guys.
Yeah.
Okay, and unfortunately, Russell Wilson got hurt. So I'm gonna continue to ride that horse until at least I can't ride it anymore. Now that it's healthy, I want to see what that horse can do.
Yeah, that's fair.
Uh, Look, give him 3 games or four. What? Okay, it's not like Pittsburgh's got this monster hard schedule this year.
I mean, the
Mm,
second half of the season is pretty brutal. The first half is where they gotta win these next 2 games against the New York teams, because I already thought that Colts loss was a bad loss. The Cowboys loss, to me, I just thought that was a tough matchup for the Steelers, and they lost it on one play at the end. I mean, I can live with that. The Colts game, though, they should have won that game, and
Yeah,
that's gonna be the game where you have to find a spot to make up for that somewhere in the season. Do you know what I mean? You need to win one
yep,
you shouldn't win. Um, and
yeah, because you lost a game that you shouldn't have lost.
yeah, and with that, the second half of that schedule, I mean, especially around Christmas time, I think within the span of 10 days, we play like the Eagles, Ravens, and Chiefs, which is just brutal. And like, that's the kind of run where like you could be great those 3 games and go 1-2 or 0-3, and like literally, I mean, you could. And so, um, I just think this is really interesting, and I think it's so fascinating that no matter what happens, what permutation of players we're talking about, we always end up in the same place, which is I don't know what the heck is going to happen with this team, and I don't know what's going on with the quarterback position, but I hope it works out. Like,
Can I just make an odd point?
hmm.
Does it seem to you that Mike Tomlin has not a very good idea about how to do quarterbacks?
Yeah, oh yeah, I agree.
Because he was gifted Ben like a completely broken in,
Yeah,
prime time, ready to rock Ben Roethlisberger, and rode that dog until it couldn't walk anymore.
yeah,
Right, and now we've had a carousel of quarterbacks now since
yeah,
Ben is retired. Okay, and you can't sit there and tell me that there hasn't been opportunity and there hasn't been chance for them to get quarterbacks that could mean something, could be somewhere right now with this team, making strides, whatever, instead of us having to deal with Justin Fields and Russell Wilson. Yeah, I mean, you see what I'm saying here,
yeah,
right?
yeah. But
So,
yeah.
so this is Pittsburgh's own doing.
I
This is
mean,
their own tree. They're lying in their own tree. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
I hear that point. And I think it's fair to say that at certain points along the way, he's managed these players in questionable fashion. Um, but I can't argue too much with the way they've tried to move forward post Roethlisberger. I mean, you know, in 22, they went into that very next draft and they saw an opportunity with Pickett that they thought was a guy who had moved in the right direction. They saw him up close. They felt good about that situation. Unfortunately, they paired him with Matt Canada, and that was a match made in hell, and it never worked out. I still think a really interesting thing would have been to see what would have happened if they had moved on from Canada before last season. Not that I think it would have saved Pickett's chance to be a starter in this league, um, but it might have elongated his opportunity. You know what I mean? He might not have looked as terrible last year. Um, but I mean, I don't know. I've gone on record a million times saying that like I don't think that there was anything bad about the pick for Pickett at number 20. I mean, it's not like he was a number 5 overall pick or something. The back half of the first round, you get a chance to get probably, the guy you thought was the best or second best quarterback in the draft, whatever you want to say, even if it was a terrible quarterback draft. I don't mind because I'm of the belief that until you have a quarterback, you don't have anything. I don't care if you have Minka Fitzpatrick and TJ Watt and Cam Hayward. In 2024, if you don't have a quarterback, you don't have anything. I look at matchups, I look at teams all the time. That's why the Jets, we're going to talk about the Jets this week. Everybody's going to hate on the Jets and talk like they're a joke and they fired their coach and they traded for Devontae Adams. Oh, they're a cursed franchise. I don't care. Because bottom line, they got Aaron Rodgers throwing the ball. And I watched them the other night, and he still makes throws that are unbelievable. He made one throw that looked like it went through the DB. I mean, like literally, he still does that. So, don't come at me, man, because same thing when we played Dak a couple weeks ago. Everybody wants to clown him. Oh, he's the worst high-paid player. I watched the guy play. I'm like, he's better than any quarterback we've had taking snaps since Ben could still throw the ball. So, until you have a quarterback, you don't have anything. So I'm not going to fault them for attempts to make that position better.
And now he's going to have Devontae Adams to throw to.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
that's just sick,
Yeah, but
right?
we got Joey Jr. to lock him down. It's okay.
Um, okay. We're going to get into defense here in a minute here
Sure.
because we need to talk about some of the defense here because I'm not liking kind of some of the setup here that I'm seeing over the last couple of games. But and I don't want to keep beating the dead horse here of this quarterback situation because you know what? It is what it is, right?
Yeah.
And we're not the ones driving this boat. Okay? It's Mike Tomlin. And when Mike Tomlin says that Justin Fields is starting a quarterback, guess what? Justin Fields is starting
Yeah.
a quarterback. And then when he says that Russell Wilson is starting a quarterback, then Russell Wilson's going to start a
But
quarterback.
okay, but let me ask you though, as somebody who I've kind of pulled you kicking and screaming through nothing but the sheer power of positivity and a nickname over to the Justin Fields kind of train, But no, but admittedly, right? Like early on in the season,
Yep,
you were much more in the no, I want the Russell Wilson kind of quarterback,
still
pocket
am.
passer. I feel as though you've kind of come over to the side of saying like, this is exciting and this is kind of fun and like this is a potential solution for the future. And
Well,
so
I'm
I'm
with
wondering
you.
now if you're feeling like you are like agree like, yeah, no, we got to put the veteran in there, see what he could do, because I just feel like Fields has done a good job with his opportunity, man,
Okay,
and I think it's a real shame to take that away from the kid. I do.
I'm with you. I'm with you, and I agree that he's done um, a decent job with his opportunity. Okay, to me, as far as I'm concerned, my opinion, what you've asked, I think he's playing scared. He's playing not to mess up. He's
Yeah.
not playing to win, or he's just playing to not mess up. And I think those rushing touchdowns that he's gotten are, I think two of them were designs, but I think the other three were pretty much busted plays that he just made something happen. Uh, Russell Wilson's not going to give you the legs, okay? And I understand that. But he's going to give you a different dynamic to like what our great listener Carrie Ann said about how we need another wide receiver, or we need at least somebody that can exploit the receivers that we have on our team.
Right.
We look, I haven't heard Fryermuth's name hardly anything in the last two games. Now he had a couple catches right in this last game, but not nearly where he should be,
No, that's fair.
especially in the red zone.
That's fair. The
Okay.
first 3 weeks, it felt like he was really unlocked, and admittedly, since the two losses, yeah, it has felt less like he's involved for sure.
And until that game last week where Georgie Porgy had 8 targets, he was hardly part of the conversation as well. You had more targets and more stuff to Calvin Austin and everybody else except the two main ones.
Right.
Okay. And now you you can't tell me that those two guys are covered every single look, it's a team game. Okay. And like what you said at the very beginning, if you don't have a quarterback, you don't have anything. So if your quarterback is only doing the hot read, and then if the hot read isn't there, he's tucking and going, that doesn't really leave you too many other options.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
Understood.
yes, it's great that he's able to make plays with his legs and get first downs and all that other stuff. But if you were to just sit back there and give it a second longer and turn your bloody head and
Yeah.
see the other guy way over there who's
Listen,
wide frick open.
I hear that. I do. But I also see a guy in Wilson who took a lot of sacks last year and sometimes struggles with pressure up the middle because he is a smaller quarterback. And I see Zach Frazier going out for a few weeks, and I see the interior of the line being mostly handled by inexperienced guys. Broderick Jones is just a debacle over there at right tackle now. Um, I don't know, man. I'm just saying it's interesting. Like it's six of one, half dozen of the other. Like you could
Like
say
that's
that,
it,
yeah.
man.
No, I mean you could say that Fields, and that's the thing. I hear so many of these like YouTube like film gurus. It's so funny. The first 3 weeks, there's all these videos. Everybody, oh, Fields is really taking a step forward, and then the last 3 weeks, it's like, oh, he's missing wide open guys everywhere, and he's missing this, and he's missing that, and it's like, I don't know, man. I watched the guy, and like, yeah, there's throws he misses, but it's not like when I was watching Kenny Pickett and I was like, oh my God, will you just throw it to the guy? Like, it's not like that. It's not like you're getting in and you're like, oh my God, this is horrifying. To me, the offense has been acceptable. I don't know, it's improved from where it was last year. And I can't discount. I'm not discounting the 350 something yards on the ground and 5 touchdowns, man. Like I'm just not like that to me is just these plays like that one against this last week where he tucked it and ran up the gut for 15 yards. If that's Russell Wilson, that's a sack for -7. That's 22 yards of hidden yardage right there. So you could say, yeah, he's pulling it down and he's not completing it, but at the same time, he's got the legs where he's like, okay, well, if I tuck it and run, I can beat that linebacker to the spot and I'm going to get 20 yards. And he's done it repeatedly. So it's just, like I said, 601, half dozen of the other. We're going to see how it's going to play out. I mean, presumably it'll make the offense better from a passing perspective, but I don't know about the rest of it.
Here's how I look at it, okay? And man, here's one thing that we haven't even hardly touched on this year, and that is the play of Najee Harris.
Mm.
You know, I was now he was a guy I didn't think we needed to spend a first round draft pick on.
Sure.
You know what I mean? But I'm here to tell you, I have been convinced the last 2 years of watching this guy just mature into one of the best backs in the league.
Yeah.
I'm seeing him. I'm seeing him pick up blocks on third down. I'm seeing him a lot more now involved in the passing game, which he was before. Even when he was playing for Georgia, he was involved in the passing game and did really well because he's got that body type and style, or that forward lean. You know what I mean? But the way he's been running the last 2 seasons, especially this year, I have been.
Yeah.
I'm going to go on record right here and now. Pay that man.
It's
Keep him a Steeler.
Yeah, I mean he's definitely it's so hit or miss with him because you have games where you look at it and you say, wow, that was a really good performance. And then you have games like Indianapolis where he has 13 carries for 19 yards. And it's
Well, when
almost.
you're not handing the ball to him or when you're not getting him involved.
Sure. But 13, over this, he had a 2-game stretch, Indy and Dallas, where he had 27 carries for 61 yards. I mean that's not pay me territory. I love Najee and I love the player, and I think that there's a lot of difficulties that don't that aren't his fault. Like I totally acknowledge that, but then I also will acknowledge that I thought that this week against the Raiders was his best performance as a pro. I thought. I mean, it doesn't. It's not a stat line that leaps off the page to you. 14 carries, 106 yards. But that's a 7.6 yards per carry, and he had the touchdown. I thought that breakaway run down the left sideline for the touchdown, I thought that was the best play he's made as a pro. I really did. He waded through traffic and he just accelerated, and I think you're starting to see his offseason work pay off because he made a concerted effort to drop a little weight and get a little faster. And I think it's really paying off because he did not have that speed. He also had that nice cut on the one to the right side earlier in the game where he just looked like a faster guy. So, yeah, no, I mean, I don't know. I don't think they're going to pay Najee, though, honestly.
Well, probably not what he thinks he deserves.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? So I would not have a problem if he stuck around in Pittsburgh. I just think he's a Pittsburgh Steeler as far as I'm concerned. And I would really hate to see him go, but
I agree, and he's a great leader, man. He really is. Big fan of him. I hated that they made him a captain one year and then not the next year because I think he deserves it.
That's where I'm at too with that too. You know what I mean? So, okay, so I think we've swung that offense pretty far here now. What do you think?
Yeah, man. I mean, hey, I just get in here and I start talking, and over the last 6 years, it usually tends to gravitate to who should be playing quarterback for the Steelers because we haven't had a good answer since 2018.
So there you have it, folks. All right, this is a quarterback show, and we're just. But speaking of quarterback shows, look, you all need to jump on over to patreon.com/5SMU and get yourself signed up. It's $4 or $7 a month. I mean, seriously,
Can't
how
beat
can you
it.
go wrong? It's not even a bloody cup of coffee, and you get great content. You get to see all the great stuff. You get to watch the show without any interruptions or anything else like that. You do get some cool merch, and you get to bug Steve on the Discord.
Get in the
Hey,
Discord
what?
server.
That's worth the
Listen.
price of admission right
Listen,
there.
I was trying. I called it out at the end of the show. It was so funny. I was literally like Monday morning when I was finishing up the show, writing the show, and I'm getting all these notifications from Discord. I'm like, what the heck are these people talking about? And it's Gage and one of our regulars, just the classic age-old Bill Cowher, Mike Tomlin debate. And I was like, guys, it's literally 9:30 a.m. on a Monday after a win. Like, why? You know, but that's what's so great about it. You know, it's just
Yeah.
it's lunatics who just talk about the Steelers all day every day. So yeah, if you dig what we do, hop over to patreon.com/5smu. Please join for $4. It's so worth it, I think. And if you're just watching this right now on YouTube, hit that like button. All right, like hit that like. Drop some comments in the chat. Drop a 5-star fiver in the
Yeah,
chat. Like,
I'll tell you what, man, the comments have been flying pretty good here since we've been on.
they
And
have. I see Carrie Ann is in nice and early. She's always making some great points.
right,
Yeah,
she was the one that I brought up about the, needing another wide receiver as well too, because we definitely need
we
another
do,
wide.
we do. But again, if you're gonna go under the assumption that Russ is gonna make the passing offense better and more diverse, I'm at least willing to see a little bit more of this Calvin Austin thing because I think he's starting to ascend and get better. There are a couple long third down conversions Fields got to him on this last game that I thought were really nice plays, and he's hanging on to the ball, he's finding open spaces. I don't know that he's going to be like a dynamic, amazing wide receiver too, but
Yeah,
but I think he can become. I have more faith that
yeah.
he can become a reliable second option than I do like Van Jefferson, who just seems to be an imaginary player.
I really like Mount Washington. I really
Yeah,
like what he brings to the table. We have hardly seen anything from him. I
what's up?
really like
Yeah.
what Fryermuth brings to the table. We saw sparklets of what's going on with him. You know what I mean? We need to see more Georgie Porgy. We need to see that, man. You can't deny these dynamic players that can be making these
Yeah,
kind
but
of
he's
plays.
got to he's got to do a better job taking advantage of his opportunities.
There
Yeah,
is that too. There is that too. Okay, but look, all these guys are number one. They're young,
yeah.
right? So it's going to take them a minute to kind of get a hold of how to do this right. You know what I mean? They didn't come into the league and have a Heinz Ward to kind of take them under their wing and show them what the ropes.
That's
They,
fair. That's fair. But I mean, for Pickens, it's like it's your third year, man. Like I'm ready to start to see a more refined professional, and I'm growing weary of whether or not we'll actually see that, at least in Pittsburgh, because I think the oldest thing in the book with the NFL draft stuff is always like when somebody drops in the draft because of character concerns, whatever that means. And then it's like they get 2-3 years into the league and it's either, oh, Mike Tomlin or Sean Payton or whoever, they fixed them. They drafted them and it's no problem. Bill Belichick with Randy
right.
Moss, whatever. But then a lot of the times, and this is like more common, they end up being a problem and a distraction, and you're like, oh, I can't believe they have character concerns. And you're like, really? Because everybody said that they had character. Like George Pickens, if you just look at him and what he did at Georgia, the dude's a first-round draft pick. The only reason the Steelers got him where they did is because he's a little
Has character issues.
yeah, he's a little bizarre. He's a little
You know?
different. So I mean, but he's got to, I'm all for. I love trash talk. You want to come out with always open on your eye black, and you want to talk and you want to do that. I'm all for it. But then you got to be like Antonio Brown and you got to back it up, dog. Like that's the thing.
You gotta walk the walk,
Antonio
baby.
Brown would come out and do some insane shit during the week, but then he'd come out and he'd be the best player on the field on Sunday. And like that's not what I've seen Pickens do. I mean, especially this
Right.
week, they went out of their comfort zone to toss him that deep ball, which could admittedly better throw could have been a touchdown, but then they threw him a lob in the end zone that I thought Fields threw perfectly,
I
and
agree. That
he
should have
didn't
been a
pull it in. He
yeah.
didn't pull it in.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I mean, and that's not something Tomlin ever does. They didn't have to go for that touchdown there, like, and he did because he wanted to try to give the guy an opportunity, and so I don't know.
No, no, I'm with you. I'm with you. So all right. So we're gonna see definitely some different things going on this week. If
Sure.
Russell Wilson will start, that's for sure. But here's the thing that I'm kind of a little worried about or concerned about, and that's this whole where we're playing Minka. Why is he out there playing center field? I mean, we're not necessarily we've cut down the number of big burns that we've had this year, but not by that much. We're still getting lit up in the passing game because we're still playing zone. And we've got players on this team right now that their speciality is man on man.
Yeah.
Why are they not doing that on defense? Why are they constantly in zone where we get lit up and picked apart? Because Dak Prescott did it to us, right? Uh,
Yeah.
the whole, I mean, I just don't understand why they're doing that on defense.
I
Why are
mean,
you constantly playing this Tampa 2 or this cover 2? Look, I get it, Mike. You won a Super Bowl with that 20 years ago. Okay? I get it.
yeah.
But
I mean,
you,
I
you
hear
need
that. I hear that totally. But, at the same time, um you know, you look at the statistics, right? And it's like, okay, points per game. They're giving up 14 points a game. That's number 2 in the league. Opponent yards per game 294. That's number 8 in the league. Opponent points per play 2.246. That's number 3 in the league.
yeah.
Yards per play number 7 in the league. Um Opponent touchdowns per game 1.5. That's number 2 in the league. So, I mean, the passing statistics, yeah, admittedly, the passing statistics are more like the upper teens, and a lot of those averages are weighted by the fact that they're very good against the run, getting a lot of turnovers. But
Right. And
to
they're
answer,
also getting a
yeah,
lot of sacks too. So
sure. But to answer your question, like that's why they're doing it, because they're drawing a ton of takeaways. 1.8 per game. They're winning the turnover margin by a lot. I think they're number 4 or 5 in the league in turnover margin. It's more of this mentality that they've had in the post Roethlisberger society of just like, okay, we're just going to keep it close, and our playmakers are on defense. Whereas, like, in that
yeah.
that 14, 15, 16 era, it was like, okay, our playmakers are on offense. And credit to Mike, that was, a period of time that was out of his comfort zone. But he knew that, and he left it up to Ben and AB and Le'Veon to like just go out and ball out and get stuff done. And they did more often than not. And now he leaves that to Cam and TJ and Minka. Minka, I've heard this because my uncle was saying something about this too. It feels like, oh, it's been so long since Minka's made a play. I Minka is a player I have no concern about, because
No.
safeties, it's so like it comes in bunches. You'll have, like, when he first got here and all of a sudden it was like 5 interceptions and a pick 6, and but safeties, I mean, Troy Polamalu had years where he'd have 2 interceptions, and you look at the stat sheet and you're like, what did he do all year? And he's still Troy Polamalu. He's still affecting plays. He's still affecting the game, and and I
Well,
feel the same. I feel the same way about Minka. I just think he's
I do
so
too.
good that I'm not worried about that. I'd love to see more splash plays, but if you're getting turnovers, I don't care if it's I don't care if it's Dante Jackson picking it off. It doesn't matter who's getting it.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't know. I guess I'm more of a play to your strengths kind of thing. And if
Yeah.
your strengths is man to man coverage, then that's what I would be doing.
Yeah,
I think you would help to reduce the amount of success that the opposition has on you, and that way you don't have to worry about necessarily, having your defense out on the field for extended periods of time because they're, extended drives from the opposition because they just keep getting converting on third down and fourth down, and defense stays out there, for a lot of the game, right?
totally.
So you need the offense out there to score some points.
That's true, but I mean, I think wouldn't you agree though? At least this year with the Fields offense, though, that they have been better at least maintaining possessions, and I think that that's helped the defense tremendously. Because while they're not going up and down the field and scoring 4 touchdowns a game, which again, I just want to point out, this is so insane that we're having this conversation after they scored 32 points for the first time in what feels like 100 years, and like it's just so funny to think
Okay, but it
about.
was still like 20 field goals and only two
Sure,
touchdowns. So I'm not really all doing
it was
cartwheels that
it
we
was
scored
three
32.
touchdowns and
Oh, all
three
right, there you go.
touchdowns and 3 field goals. So
I'm
uh,
just being facetious.
no, but I'm just saying, like, just think about that, and in terms of like where we came from last year. You know what I mean? Like literally last year, we would be watching these games. I'll always go back to it, but it just was the most futile offensive game I've ever seen. That Pickett game against the Browns that got Canada fired, where it was just like, we were playing Dorian Thompson Robinson on the other side, and the whole game I'm just sitting here like, oh my god, if you just put up a touchdown, this game is over. Like a touchdown. And it was like pulling the sword out of the stone. It was just
Yeah, it was.
impossible.
It was like trying to pick up my oar or
It
something. You
was
know what I
it
mean?
was impossible. And so, I take that, and that's why I think, you got to take these things with a grain of salt and say, as a unit, is this offense getting better? And I think that it is, and I think that it's aiding the defense, and I think that's why the defense has been, to my eye, better this year than it was last year. I mean, look, they're second or third or whatever I just said in points per game given up. It's 2024. They're giving up less than 14 points a game. I
I'm with
can't
you.
I can't be
Yeah.
too upset about the defense. I thought that the defense had one bad game and one bad drive against Dallas. That's it. I thought they were terrible against the Colts, and I thought that they were terrible at the end against Dallas, which I just want to remind
They just
people.
let him march down the field.
I just want to remind people, okay, in that game, again, because everybody lumps it in as a loss, that Justin Fields threw a touchdown pass with 5 minutes left in that game to take the lead, and you're supposed to be elite defense, and it's not like it was a 2-point lead or a 3-point lead where they
And
needed a
it ain't
field
like you
goal.
were playing the Chiefs.
They needed a 4-point lead. They had a 4-point lead. They needed a touchdown, and you let them go 80 plus yards and score a touchdown. To me, is that on the quarterback? That's not on the quarterback, man. I
That's
don't
on the
care. How
defense
many
all
games did
day.
we win like that with Roethlisberger or even Pickett, where it's like, you go through the whole game. I remember so many of those games last year where we were 6-2 or whatever we were, 6-3. Those Packers games, like, how did we beat Jordan Love with Kenny Pickett last year? I don't know, but we pulled it off. It had nothing to do with the offense, though. I'll tell you that much. I remember that.
Very few games had little to do with the offense last year because
Yeah.
there wasn't any.
No, not until Mason Rudolph came in, but.
And then suddenly we can throw touchdown passes. Hey, look at that!
Yeah.
What are you doing?
No.
Okay.
But I hear you. I just, the defense, I think that, I hear that complaint about wanting to be more aggressive and all that, but I in general think the defense has been more than fine, and I just don't think we're in an era where you can rely on a defense being like your difference maker. Your defense can help you, but I still think at the end of the day, this is an offensive driven league now more than anything. And so I think if you have a defense as good as the Steelers, it's on them to supply an offense that's at least good enough to keep their heads above water. I think the defense gives you a good enough chance to win week in and week out.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Finally, somebody that thinks the way I do.
Yeah.
That's kind of why we've kind of been doing this now for the last couple of years. You know what I mean? Uh, when when we finally, I don't think we have an identity yet on this team yet.
No,
You know what
I
I
would agree
mean?
with that. Yeah.
Right? And until we get one, are we going to be that team that you don't want to play against in the playoffs, or are we going to be that team that limps into the playoffs, or are we going to be that team that doesn't even make the playoff? Right? Uh, I would, look, we all would love to see this team, go into the playoffs with purpose.
Right.
Win the division, the whole 9 yards, and go in being a, top three seed.
Yeah.
But I'll take sixth seed or whatever or wild card. But as long as we win, it doesn't do us any good if we make it in. If we just make it in, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, because that's been where we've been now for so long that it does become a little bit, exhausting. I mean, we've talked about this so much, right? Like, it's just been so much of the same. Um, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think that we don't know. To your point, we don't know what the identity is. We know what the identity is that they want to project. Um, hard nosed defense is going to make some splash plays, and an offense that's not going to turn it over. And hopefully get better with the addition of a former 9-time Pro Bowler. We'll see how that plays out, man. I don't know. I see a lot of conversation now happening about Minka in the chat. And like, yeah, I just like I don't know, man. I have I have the highest respect for a Minka type player, and I'm not worried about him. I don't think that they're putting him in a bad place. I just think that when you're an opposing quarterback, it's similar to when we had Palomalu. You just say, okay, who am I worried about? And you say it's 39 and you don't throw it. Like that's the reality. Like, and there have been a few plays where it looks like he's trailing and maybe late getting over. I'm not wise enough to say who's supposed to be doing what, where, when. So like, I don't know if he's missing plays, but the way that guy studies and the way his athleticism is, I'm gonna go ahead and assume that a lot of those plays have been on the Beanie Bishop or Dante Jackson or whoever not being in the right time and right place. And that's another thing I want to mention is like a lot of people I think forget because I know I've forgotten. Circa week 8, I think, or week 9, we're gonna be looking at getting Cam Sutton back, which I think really helps that slot position because uh, Beanie Bishop, a rookie undrafted guy, he's shown serious want to, and I think he's a talented player that could turn into a Mike Hilton type, but I don't think he's that yet. And I think putting a veteran there, a guy who knows his system inside and out, like the back of his hand, I love it. I love that the Cam Sutton, the reason they brought Cam Sutton and were able to bring Cam Sutton back is unfortunate. So, not to, this is a guy that was formerly one of my favorite dudes on the team. But I still think he's a really talented player. And so we'll see how that plays out. I think it makes him better, though, on the back end for sure.
and I like that they brought back Terrell Edmonds as well too.
Yeah, anytime
Um,
you can have a guy like that on the end of your bench that's played. I mean, he's played how many snaps in this defense? I mean, thousands. Like, yeah.
well, yeah, quite a few hundred. That's let's just say that much. You know what I mean, right? Okay. But I see what you're talking about with the defense, and when you do look at the stats up and down on the sheets, yeah, they're one of the better defenses out there, but it's situational ball, man. It's down in distance. It's, hey, man, you're up by 4 points, and all you need to do is hold them,
Yeah.
and you fail to do so, right? Or, it's those kinds of situations where, that gives you that little bit of pause. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So, all in all, I think the defense has improved. We're seeing, I think, on average, 15% less splash plays against Pittsburgh, right? And we're talking about ones that are 20 plus yards.
Right.
being splash plays or, you know, chunk plays, as you like to call them on the show. Which, by the way, if you haven't checked out the show,
Do
you
it.
gotta go check out the show on patreon.com/5SMU for $4 or $7 a month. You gotta hop on over there and get that, man, because
Do it.
it's some great commentary. You get to see the show without any interruptions at all. You get to, bug Steve on his Discord. You get access to the Discord server, and it's quite chatty on during games and everything else like that. And you get to see our his great face and my ugly mug, my face for radio. You know what I mean?
Patreon.com/5SMU. Do it. Yeah, no, I hear that. I mean, but again, you just like I'm looking at statistics here, and it's like, I
They're
mean,
not bad.
you
And
compare
even when
Steelers
you,
versus their opponents, right? And it's like
yeah,
they've given up. They've gotten the Steelers have 789 rushing yards. They've given up 513. Um, they've given up. They've got 1125 yards passing. They've given up 1368. But even that, in this day and age, over 6 games, that's really not very much. That's not that much. Um,
well,
and then look at the interceptions. We've thrown 1 interception with Fields. The opponents have thrown 7. We have 7 interceptions in 6 games. Sacks roughly equivalent. And then field goals. This is the Boz thing. We have 16 out of 17 field goals, and opponents have just 8 out of 10. And we've scored 2 more touchdowns than our opponents, which I just think,
that's
is
that's the Boz right there, buddy.
yeah. No, it is. It is. But I think it's showing you though that like regardless of how you want to look at the performance of this team this year, I know before Monday night, I think it's different now because Buffalo won by a few points. But going into Monday night, the Steelers, if you can believe this, were number 1 in the AFC in point differential. Like, like that's actually crazy to think about because they had a couple
I
of
know.
losses by 4 points or
I
whatever.
know.
But they have now, what 2? Do we have 2 wins now by like multiple scores? Is that I'm trying to remember because we won by 19 this week. And
Yeah.
then we won by 10 against the Chargers. And then 18, that's like on the border of what you might call a 2-score. So,
Right.
but either way though, like again, we're all talking about this quarterback thing. And, if you look at it, it's like, man, how many games in the last 2 years did we win by 10 or 19 points? And we have 2 of them in the span of 6 games. So again, whatever you want to say about metrics and what's being left on the field, I still, as a person who's just been watching the Steelers this whole time, I come away saying I think this team is better right now in the first 6 games of this season than they have been in any year since 2020, since Ben's first rookie, comeback season. So, I don't know. It's just all very fascinating. It's all very fascinating.
Can't argue with you on that.
Yeah, I mean,
really,
they're beating their
really
opponents. Like they're beating their opponents. Like 4-2, I think is pretty much exactly where most of 4-2, 5-1.
Yeah.
I mean that I think that's pretty much none of us think this is a team that was going to go 6-0. I mean that would just no one thought that. It's just they're not
Right.
that caliber. But still, I think 4-2 for me, and especially if you go in and get the win this week now, 5-2, and then you got the Giants before the bye. I think this 2-game run against the New York teams is just gigantic. It really charts the course for the rest of the season. I think if you win these 2 games, if you were to win these 2, you'd be 6-2 going into the bye, and you start to say, okay, I think this now has gone from I hope we get a wild card to are we going to actually fight for like a 3 or a 2 seed? Like, are we really going to be like in that conversation? Because I think that's the case. I mean, the schedule sets up that with all those division games late, which now Cleveland is looking like it's not going to matter because Cleveland is just desolate. By December, they're not even going to be trying. The quarterback's already not trying. And then who knows that you're never going to get an easy win against Cincinnati or Baltimore, obviously, but at least your destiny will be in front of you. You know what I mean? And I just think getting to this bye without another loss is huge, and yeah, it means a lot.
couldn't have said it any better, man. But I
Yeah.
will say this: I think if the Steelers would have lost that game against the Raiders, I really think that there would have been a definitive.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna see Russell Wilson after that game. Do you know what I
Sure.
mean?
But they won by
Um,
20 points.
okay, uh, so I do like the projection of how this team could do. It doesn't matter if Russell Wilson is in a quarterback because you clearly are going to know that if the game is going to starting to get out of hand, that Mike Tomlin's going to pull the trigger again. If
Right.
he's obviously pulling the trigger now, you know what I mean? So it's his show. He's the one running it. We're gonna have to just go on what he. I mean, we could sit here and talk all we want about who we really think should be in there, but ultimately, Mike Tomlin is the one making that decision.
Yeah.
Okay,
No, exactly. That's all
and
it.
and, and that and so far, I mean, okay, let's see, because when you're not winning, then we see what the problems are. Then we see what's really going on. So as long as you keep on winning and everybody's all happy and victory Mondays and whatever, whatever, and that's all fine and great and it's a great show because we all won and
Yeah.
when and everybody's like, well, we don't really care how he won and we don't care that Fields is running all up and down the field. Blah blah
Well,
blah blah.
no. If there's
No,
one
no, no,
thing if there's one thing I've learned about Steelers fans, they love complaining about how you win. They
you're
love
right.
it.
No, no, no. And we have fallen victim to that ourselves, as I mean,
We have.
right?
We have.
But I'm just trying to level the field here a little bit. As long as we're winning, yeah, everything's okay for the most part. But
Yeah.
it's are you see? Look, here's the thing, and this you know this as well as I do because it runs black and gold blood deep. We want to go out and see a dominant game. We don't want to have to worry about the opposition scoring any bloody points against us.
Right.
We want to sack their quarterback every single play. We want him limping off at the end of the game. We want to win 55 to nothing every
Yeah.
game. I'm okay, right?
No,
But now,
I do I agree with that, and and as somebody, I've talked about this ad nauseum now for so many years, but like as somebody who literally started up a highlights show about the Steelers the year that they went into a tailspin in the quarterback position. Jaden, by the way, still watching. He's at 4%. He's gonna be gone soon.
yeah, buddy.
I love
Hang
you.
in, man.
I love you, brother. Hopefully you got a charger in the car when you head home. I appreciate you sticking around and using the last of your juice on us.
Dedication. Big props.
I was actually just gonna ask her an update. I was thinking about that. We were mind melding, Jaden. Thank you, brother. He's been watching the show a long time. You guys know this. I say this all the time, but like I do recognize all your names and stuff. Like the people that have been around for so long. I always notice that and am thankful for your energy and attention watching us. But
That's why we do this, man. That's why we
it
do this
is.
because you great people out there, because you listen and you have such great comments, such great points.
It is.
You hold us to task.
No, we love our
and that's
audience.
great. Yeah.
Um,
You know.
but yeah, what was my point? My point was, oh yeah, but see, okay, and then that's what I tried to say in the show though, is that like for all this, no matter how the Steelers win, there's always people in the fan base that they're like, oh well, I remember this so well from 2020 where we're 10-0, 11-0, and as I've said a million times, like at that time and place, what we were going through that year in real life, and Ben coming back and all that, and I just remember being like, guys, come on. Like just, we're on borrowed time here. It's been a rough year. Just enjoy it. Like just have fun. And that's like I can't ever remember. I will always remember that feeling as being so frustrated for people because instead of just enjoying it and living through that
Yeah.
moment, they couldn't stop being like, well, we should have beat the Titans by more and we should have done this. But, and I was like, guys, it's like, the quarterback is smoke and mirrors. Like literally he's, reconstructed elbow. He's not, this is like a fastball pitcher who had to learn the knuckle curve. Like it's not, this is tenuous, but enjoy it and have fun with it because it's sports and it's entertainment. And I think the thing is like, we had some of this with Pickett too the last few years where it's like, okay, he's 5-2. And you say, well, how do I evaluate him? Because I watched the guy play and it looks like he stinks. But then he goes on a 2-minute drive in the most epic situation to win. And you're like, okay, well, I guess if you're good at that, you're good. So it was this confounding thing. And then what I wanted to focus on this week with this win was I felt like for the first time in a long time, the Steelers just kind of took care of business. And I felt like they did that against Atlanta. I felt like they did that against what the heck was week 2? The Broncos. And I felt like they did that against the Chargers. And, I felt like they did that this week. And especially this week because, and then the Chargers especially too, because that was 20-10. They won by 10 points against Justin Hurt. Well, exactly. Justin Herbert got hurt, but still, that's a good team, man. That's a well-coached, good team. And they're just kind of taking care of business. And that's what I like about this. It's not like last year where it's like, okay, you go out and you beat a hobbled Titan team by 2 points. You got to make a play at the end, This Raiders game, they went out and they won this game. Like they won this game. It took a while for them to get going, but by 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter, I'm leaning back in my chair. And that's the measure of, for me, whether or not you did your job against a bad team. It's literally, am I leaning back or am I leaning forward? And if I'm leaning forward, you didn't do your job. And even if you win, it still was stressful getting there. But if I'm leaning back with time on the clock, you did your job. That's bottom line.
That's why us Yinzers are the way we are, because we don't want to be leaning forward with 7 minutes left in the game. We want to be kicking back. Right, popping open our beverage or having our or enjoying some family time or whatever. We want to be kicking back. We don't want to be biting our nails and going, "Oh my gosh, can we pull this one out?" Yeah. Right. We don't need any more stress. Yeah. Seriously, that's why I went to that. We want to see every game 55-0, and you know what I mean. And you brought that up. You did it so eloquently about saying, yeah, there's 7 minutes left in the game. Am I leaning forward or am I leaning back?
Yeah.
We want to be leaning back like at the end of the first quarter. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like, well, that never happens with the Steelers.
Okay, right.
Because usually they have 3 points or less after the first quarter. But
okay, right. First quarter has not been very good for us this year. But you get what I'm trying to say, okay?
Yeah.
And that's why I think you see people complain because, oh, they coulda, shoulda. It's like what you said. Yeah, you won, but I'm leaning forward.
Yeah.
I'm worried. I have doubt that can you do it? Can you do your job and do it? Or am I, yep, we did our job, we're good, go get Jack.
No, it's just interesting. It's just a fascinating spot to be in, and and I see. I think is it John in the chat who's very much, or Mark. We can win every week, but if we don't establish the quarterback position, it all feels like fool's gold, especially when the playoffs come around. Hey, I hear you. I hear you, and I do. It's just I feel the same way today as I did a couple days ago when I was talking about this situation, which is. I think the move makes sense if you think Russell Wilson makes you a Super Bowl caliber team. That's it. That's the bottom line. If you think he can win you a Super Bowl this year, then I think it makes a lot of sense. If you don't think that, I'm not sure I do, then I don't think it makes much sense because I think you're going to end up in a spot where no matter what you do, you're gonna be having to if Wilson plays good and you go out and you get to the playoffs, maybe win a playoff game, you're going to have to give a guy $35 million a year at least, who's going to turn 37 during the season next year. I'm just nervous about that, and I know that there are a lot of people that want to detract from the Fields situation and say, oh, he's not a good passing quarterback, whatever. All I do is I just look at a guy who clearly has a good head on his shoulders, has an opportunity to be good, can do a lot of stuff, and I'm more excited about that being a potential future. With both of these guys on 1-year deals, I'm just the Wilson thing. It adds a whole other layer to this thing that I'm interested. I don't know what's the line of this being a success, right? If you put Wilson in, where does it become successful? Like, do you have to get to the playoffs? Do you have to win a playoff game? Do you have to win the Super Bowl? Like, where is that successful?
I don't know, but Vanessa Richardson dropped her $2 and said that she's not feeling all that great about having Russell Wilson at quarterback. So thank you for the $2 donation, man. We really
Hey,
appreciate that.
listen, Vanessa, shout out. I think she dropped a couple bucks in the jar the other night when I was streaming with Gage too. We appreciate you. Listen,
All day,
I hear
man.
you. I hear you, but I just encourage people, again, the tribalism of like whichever side you're on. I think as Steelers fans, we should all be I'm rooting for Russell Wilson to do good. Like
Me too.
I want him to be good. I just it's just fascinating. It's just interesting, and it's just a whole other layer of like it's like starting in week 1 again. I have no idea what it's going to
Well,
mean and what it's going to represent.
two things. Number one, I was rooting for Justin Fields to do well. Okay, because you're quarterbacking my team here, so I'm rooting for you to do well. Here's another thing too, and this is a complete Mike Tomlinism right here. There's some gamesmanship going on here,
Definitely,
right?
yeah.
If he is starting Russell Wilson against the Jets, this is gamesmanship right here, right? Because they have not seen Russell Wilson play for the Steelers, so there's no tape. There's no, I mean, yeah, there's tape on Russell Wilson from last year, but you see what I'm saying, right? So what I've learned over the last few years is this: it may be ugly, and it may be so unpretty, but as long as there's W's going up in the column, okay, don't give me this. Don't give me excuses if you're 8-8. I don't want to hear that. I'm I don't want to hear that 8-8 is a non-losing season. As far as I'm concerned, if you don't make the playoffs, that is a losing season. Uh, uh, Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong.
Oh yeah. No, I agree with you. I think the bar for success for this season, I think for either quarterback is at least getting to the playoffs, because they got to the playoffs with Kenny Pickett and Mason Rudolph and Mitchell Trubisky starting last year. So if you don't at least match that, then it's a negative. I think especially at 4-2, um, I think it's got to be better than making that seventh seed and having to get slaughtered by the Chiefs or the Bills or something. Like you have to, I want to at least see if it's not
Perfect.
if it's not the first wild card. I want you to win the division. Now, tell me you don't have a chance to win the division. Okay,
Perfect.
Baltimore's not Baltimore's not perfect. We've beaten them 6 out of the last 7, whatever it is. And I want to say, like, I'm looking at the chat here and I see John, who's been going the whole chat. And he says, folks who have watched football for a few know that ugly wins won't work in a playoff run. And I got to tell you, okay, I've been watching a long time, man. And the only times I saw the Steelers have success in the playoffs, it was with ugly wins. Okay. The only time I ever saw a pretty Steelers playoff win was the AFC Championship against Denver when Ben threw for like 3 touchdowns. That's the only time that they've ever had. Maybe that Dolphins game where they knocked like the third string quarterback out. Remember Bud Dupree absolutely killed Matt Moore. I thought he was gonna have to get
Yeah.
spatulaed
Yeah.
off the turf. That was
Right.
that was one of the roughest hits of all time.
I'm with you. But
Yeah, so I mean, I just like I don't think that there's anything wrong with working with living in that ugly space because I thought Ben Roethlisberger was an ugly player at times. But he got it done when it mattered, and and he says Fields should be at the Caleb Williams or Jaden Daniels level, and he isn't after 4 years. I envy your optimistic approach. I mean, look, I'm not saying he's gonna be an All Pro. I'm just saying there's to me there's a better chance that Justin Fields could be the quarterback of this team in 25 or 26 than Russell Wilson. And that's what I'm personally interested in because I just think you have to solve that answer. And but we'll see, man. I'm willing to see what Russ is going to do. Easy Rollins dropped another $2 in the chat. Shout out. Be like Vanessa and Easy. Like, drop $2 in the chat. 2, 3, 4, 5, 100, whatever. Like, love it. Thank you very much. He says Russ is going to throw for 3 TDs. So, hey, I'll take it.
Yes, please.
Yeah, no,
yes, please.
Yeah, no, I mean, hey, I'll take it, man. And again, like, I think you guys know me. Like, I'll eat crow. Like, I don't care. If he comes out and lights it up, I'm more than happy to be like, all right, yeah, there was the right move. I'm in on it.
If he doesn't come out and light it up, even if he wins ugly, I don't care.
Yeah,
wins.
Yeah,
that's all that matters. Is look,
Yeah.
Look, I understand it's how you win and all that other stuff, but in the end, when it comes down to it, all they do is they look at the standings. And in the standings, how many W's do you have? Do you have more than anybody else? Well, hey, then guess what? Okay. So until you get to the playoffs, it's all about the W's.
Yep, and Max Mendelson in the chat says this feels like such a trap game. Why? Again, it's not to me a trap game. Aaron Rodgers is the Jets quarterback. Guys, like everybody wants to clown on the Jets, and I get it because we've all been clowning on the Jets for how many years ago was 1969? a long time ago. You could probably do that. You could do that math. You could do
butt fumble.
Yeah. But yeah, I get it. I understand, but it's Aaron Rodgers, okay? Like it's, guys, it's Aaron Rodgers. Like, this is not a trap game. You do not lose a trap game to Tom Brady. You do not lose a trap game to Peyton Manning. You don't lose a trap game to Aaron Rodgers. It's the Jets. Say what you want about them. This is a hard game. I don't care. It's Aaron Rodgers, okay? Like, were you alive during Super Bowl 45? Like, it's Aaron Rodgers, okay?
Okay, so thank you for bringing that up. I was just going to say he's the only quarterback. Well, there's only been 2 quarterbacks that have beat the Steelers in the Super Bowl, and Aaron Rodgers is one of them.
Yeah, that's true.
And he's coming to town with a new team and a new attitude and a new coach and nothing to lose. So
it's not I don't want to hear no trap game. This is a tough game.
Easy Rollins is dropping 2s and 5s.
Oh, Easy Rollins. Everybody's got to be like Easy Rollins. Like, let's go. What a legend. Drops a 2, drops a 2, drops a 5. We love it. So he's supporting both of our guys, and you got to love it. That's a good fan. He says Fields is the future, Wilson is the now. That's interesting. Again, but with them both on 1-year deals, I don't know if I see any world where they're both here next year.
Yeah.
It's just, to me, the Fields Wilson thing has all been about, like, I just see it as you have a year to see what you got. And I guess you owe it to yourselves as an organization to see what that means as far as Wilson goes too. So I guess that's fair. But I like that. I mean, that would make a lot of sense to me. I just think it is tough to pull that off in actuality, but we'll see. And then he says, trophies, don't care how you win. Giants beat the Patriots twice. And I agree, man. You don't have to be the best team to win the Super Bowl. You don't. But you do have to have a good quarterback most of the time.
And you do have to have enough wins at least to get to the dance.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So if you don't have enough wins to get to the dance, it doesn't really matter how good your quarterback is or anything else. You know what I mean? So
Yep. And John Edberg, who's been chatting us up throughout, he says, I have no burning desire to be right and will admit wrong opinions at a Super Bowl party podcast. Could you imagine this is, I have to say, I am so just it's so uncanny and unfortunate that throughout my entire life the Steelers have had playoff success, getting to AFC Championship games, getting to Super Bowls. And then
We haven't done a
I
broadcast.
finally start a show and a podcast, and they've had their
Haven't
longest
done
playoff
shit.
drought in 50 years or something. So
Oh no!
great.
Don't do that! Don't do that!
I
Don't
mean,
tie us together
it's
like
been
that.
almost a it's I mean it's coming up on a decade since they've won a playoff game. I mean that's like I said, I
Well,
mean I
not a
was joking
playoff.
about I was joking about it earlier in the show, but
Yeah.
like seriously, I can't tell you how bizarre it is as somebody who is very specifically a Steelers, Penguins, Mets, and Knicks fan to literally, I mean, literally, both the Mets and the Knicks are way closer to winning a championship than the Steelers are. It's just, I mean, it's
Uh,
crazy. It's
I thought
crazy.
I was bad, right? Because I'm Steelers Flyers,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
then I
Well,
don't even watch baseball, right?
yeah.
So I could care less who plays in baseball, you know what I mean? And I'm not a big fan of basketball, but I do watch Penn State College, you know what
Sure,
I
sure,
mean?
sure.
So, but by the
We
way,
just,
you have to
go ahead.
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, by the way, you have to hit the like button, and then while you're hitting that like button, you got to hop on over to patreon.com/5SMU and get yourself signed up.
Do it.
$4 or $7 a month gets you access to the Discord server on game days, and you get to do the
It's a
chat here with us too, and you get to see the show without any interruptions, and you get to get some cool stuff here from Steve, and you get to bug him too at all hours of the day in the Discord
it's
server.
a
So that's
cup of
right there, and that's
coffee.
worth the price of admission.
It's a cup of coffee. You get in the Discord server. I mean, I'm texting these fools at 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm laying in bed on my phone, texting, my buds about whatever. Like literally, just earlier this morning, we were trying to remember who the heck that defensive back was. You remember that game in 22 against the Bucks where Trubisky came in and beat Tom Brady? Like what was that? Like that was so bizarre. And I remember we had like backup DBs and we were talking about that this morning at like 11 o'clock, just randomly, and it just like, oh, who was that guy? And like of course we figured out
Right.
the answer. But I love it because it's like it's not like nowadays so much of your conversation, you remember back in the day and you just be like sitting around with your friends and you're like, oh, what the hell was that guy's name? And you just talk about it. As opposed to now you're just like, oh, let me look up the roster and blah, 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 blah. Like,
We
that's what I
can
love
find
about
it
it.
real quick now,
Yeah, that's what I
yeah.
love about our Discord server is like stuff like that comes up and we all just talk to each other about it and somebody will know the answer and it's not just, oh, Google the answer and AI will tell you. Like, it's literally just like, it's so old school and it's so fun. Rabid Rabbit in the chat, he's a member. He says it's always active. It's honestly, it's become my favorite element of this whole thing I do here. I love the Discord server. Love more people in it. Join up, patreon.com/5SMU.
I mean, that's why we love doing this, man. We love the interaction with the fans. We love what you guys have to say because, let's face it, Yinzers are some very smart fans. And the family that we have in here are way brilliant when it comes to this team and football and sports and in general, you know what I mean? And so the fact that you guys are here on a regular basis, the fact that you guys give up your time to listen and watch us, man, thank you so very much. Really appreciate that, man. Really do.
We do. And shout out Easy Rollins, another $2. He must have dropped 10, $11 or something at this point. And of course, now I see why he's donating because he's also a Mets fan. So I'm sure he's digging.
There you
This
go.
is, this is actually this is a stadium exclusive. You can't buy this hat online. I got this at City Field.
Oh, snap.
Mr. Met with the shades, and then he's got the little
Yeah.
Mets hat on top. Very elite. So that's why I think Easy Rollins is donating to the chat. What do you think, Rollins? Are we gonna get a dub to match the Dodgers tonight? Mets lost last night, so they're down 2-1 in the NLCS. But
Okay. Okay. Okay.
um,
All right. And
get they got two more at home, so get them both back and go to LA up 3-2.
there you
Um,
go. There you go. So that's who you're playing is the Dodgers.
Yeah, Dodgers. So it's NLCS is Mets Dodgers and the ALCS is Yankees Cleveland. So a lot of people rooting for Subway Series. I think that would be, especially living in New York, I think that'd be a lot of fun, man. Just to, I mean, to have all 7 games or however many of the World Series in the same city, I think would be really dope. So that's what I'm rooting for.
I'd have to say I'd be rooting for that too, just because of
It's
that.
fun. It's just
Just for
fun.
the
Yeah.
just for the Subway series. Yeah, that would be cool. All right, and it's
You
been
know.
a while since we've seen the Yankees or the Mets.
Yeah. No, it'll be,
Because of the big dance.
but the Mets got to get the dub tonight, so that's what I'm rooting
All
for.
right.
But yeah, I think we're rounding that corner. I think we got to get up out of here soon. I got to get some dinner going. Yeah, what do you want to leave the folks with tonight before we get out of here? Still,
Well, I'll tell you what. You got to hop on over to steelflyers.com and check out all the stuff we're doing over there with Prospect Watch. We just dropped another show tonight. We were talking to right hand shot defenseman Anthony Cristoforo, plays for the Windsor Spitfires. We've probably talked to maybe 5 or 6 first round draft picks this year. You got to go over to steelflyers.com and check out all the stuff we're doing over there. Also, big props and thanks to Frayne. He's also our editor and drops all of our great shorts that you see out there as well. So big props to him. Big props to Gage and the whole team here at Five Star Matchup. Really appreciate you guys allowing me to be here and be part of this. Really appreciate all you folks out there allowing us to be here and taking me in and allowing me to be part of this, man. Really appreciate that. So thank you all very much.
yeah, no, definitely get over to steelflyers.com. Check out everything he's cooking up. Especially if you're into hockey, the prospect watch that you guys do is just fantastic, and it's a great niche. And I'm so happy for you with what that's grown to. It's tremendous. And as
Yeah,
more of
man.
these kids grow up and become superstars, you're gonna have interviews with a plethora of just stars in the NHL. So uh,
Exactly.
great
Exactly.
work over there. Smart play. We dig it. From me, it's I mean I was on here a couple days ago, so there's not much new I could leave you with, other than just go into this week with an open mind. I think it's abundantly apparent that Wilson's gonna be the starting quarterback, and it's time for us to just take that in and see what that means. And we have a little 2 week trial and then a bye here. It might be positive, it might be negative, but I'm gonna sit on the side of positivity, and I think they're gonna get the job done this week.
Yeah, me too.
I feel good about it. Mike Tomlin at home Sunday night is usually a good spot. Is Sunday night right, or is it Monday?
Yeah, it's a
I think
Sunday night game
Sunday
because the
night.
Giants game is Monday.
Yeah, so it's Sunday night, so that's good. So I'll not be able to sleep at all these next 2 weeks if they win. So that's exciting. I'm getting
And
too old for
you'll
this.
be up late. You'll be up
Yeah,
late both of those nights to
yeah,
get us those great shows that you do.
yeah.
So
I'm getting too old for this. I feel like Danny Glover
oh, bro.
and Lethal
Lethal
Weapon.
Weapon.
Yeah. But no. I appreciate all y'all hanging out with us for the last hour and a half. Hope you guys have a great night and a great rest of your week, and I'll see y'all on Monday.